The day Marcus came home from his third deployment, his father drove 4 hours to the airport. He stood at the arrival's gate, holding a hand-painted sign that said, "Welcome home, son." Marcus walked right past him. Not because he didn't see him. Because he didn't know how to stop walking. Marcus Cole had enlisted at 19. Broad shoulders, easy laugh, the kind of young man who could light up a room just by walking through the door. His father, Raymond, a retired high school football coach from rural Tennessee, had watched his boy leave with a chest full of pride and a camera full of photos he planned to show his grandkids someday. 3 deployments later, Marcus came home different. He wasn't sleeping, he wasn't talking. He sat in the spare bedroom of Raymond's farmhouse, curtains drawn in the middle of the afternoon, and stared at nothing in particular. Raymond didn't know what to do. He was a man who had coached hundreds of young men through adversity. He knew how to push, how to motivate, how to break a boy down and build him back up. But the playbook he'd spent 40 years perfecting had no page for this. So he tried the only thing he knew. He woke Marcus up at 5 in the morning. "Get dressed," he said. "We're going out." Marcus looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "Dad, it's 5 in the morning." "I know what time it is. Get dressed." Raymond didn't take him to therapy. He didn't sit him down for a conversation about feelings. He drove Marcus out to the back 40 acres of their property and handed him a pair of worn leather gloves. "This fence line hasn't been repaired since your grandfather put it up," Raymond said. "We're going to fix it." Marcus stared at him. "You woke me up to fix a fence." "I woke you up to do something useful. Now grab the other end of that post." They worked in silence for the first hour. The cold morning air, the physical resistance of the earth, the simple rhythm of digging and setting and pounding. Marcus didn't talk. Raymond didn't push him to. They just worked. By the second hour, Raymond started talking. Not to Marcus, exactly, just out loud. Stories about the fence. About Marcus's grandfather, who had built this entire property with his hands after coming home from Korea. A man Raymond described as the quietest man I ever knew, except when he was working. Marcus didn't respond, but he listened. They went back out the next morning, and the morning after that. By the end of the first week, they had repaired nearly a quarter-mile of fence line. Marcus's hands were blistered, his back ached, and for the first time in months, he was sleeping through the night. On the 8th morning, Raymond arrived at Marcus's door and found it already open. Marcus was standing in the kitchen in his work clothes, pouring 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to his father without a word. Raymond took it and nodded. That was enough. It was a Tuesday in late October when everything shifted. They were working near the old cedar tree at the northeast corner of the property, the one Marcus used to climb as a boy. Raymond watched his son stop mid-swing of the fence-post hammer and just stand there, still, looking up at the tree. Raymond set down his own tools and stood quietly beside him. After a long moment, Marcus said, "I keep seeing things that aren't there, Dad." Raymond said nothing, he just waited. "I can't sit in a room with my back to the door. I can't hear a loud noise without everything in me going sideways." He paused. "I don't know who I am anymore." Raymond looked at the cedar tree. He thought for a moment before he spoke. "When I was 32, he said quietly, "I lost my job, your mother left, and I thought I had failed at everything that mattered. I came out here and I just sat under this tree for about 3 hours, didn't do anything, just sat." He turned to look at Marcus. "And then I got up and fixed the fence." Marcus looked at him. "Not because the fence was the point," Raymond continued, "because sometimes when everything inside you is broken, you do the one thing in front of you, and you do it right, and then you do the next thing. That's how a man finds his way back." Marcus looked down at the hammer in his hands. Then he drove the post into the ground with one clean swing. "We've still got another half-mile to go," he said. Raymond picked up his tools. "Then let's not stand here wasting daylight." Marcus started seeing a counselor 3 weeks later, not because anyone forced him to. Because one morning he told Raymond he thought it might be time, and Raymond simply said, "I think so too." The fence took them 11 weeks to finish. They marked the last post on a clear December morning, and Raymond drove a final nail into the corner board while Marcus held it steady. They stood back and looked at what they'd built. "You know," Marcus said, "this fence didn't need fixing." Raymond smiled. "No," he said, "it didn't." The real repair had happened somewhere out here in the cold mornings, in the silence between two men who loved each other and didn't have the right words. It happened in the showing up, in the not giving up, in the quiet stubbornness of a father who refused to let his son disappear. Marcus Cole is doing better now. He speaks at veterans groups sometimes. He tells them that healing doesn't always look like a breakthrough. Sometimes it looks like a fence post in frozen ground. Sometimes it looks like a cup of coffee handed across a kitchen table without a word. Sometimes love doesn't look like a speech. It looks like waking someone up at 5 in the morning and saying, "Come on, we've got work to do." And sometimes that is enough to bring a person all the way home. If this story moved you, take a moment to share it with someone who might need it today. Leave a comment below telling us about a time someone showed up for you without being asked. Subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more true stories of courage, sacrifice, and the quiet grace that holds people together when everything else falls apart. Thank you for being here.